Hi there, this is Tom from Televisor, and welcome to our Sonic Academy tutorial on how to write new disco. Now, Tim's already introduced the tutorial, and we're going to just dive straight in and look at how we create new disco drums. So, I'm going to start this a little bit differently. I'm not going to build up everything from scratch for the drums, because I think that even if you're a beginner in new disco, or indeed writing house music, you know that the beats are usually conforming to one idea, which is pretty much 4/4. And what we try to do with Televisor is we try and play around with the drums, just try and make them a little bit more dynamic and have a little bit more life. And I'm really just going to look through what drums we've chosen and why we chose that particular sound. So let's just have a listen to the project together with the synth, because when we write a song, we usually write with something on there to guide us, be it a guitar or a bass line or a synth, and it gives you an idea of how you can sort of move a static instrument along. So remember, there's no mastering or mixing plugins on this at the moment. It's all just raw, but let's just have a listen. And there we go. So let's dive straight in. Let's have a look at what we've got. So the first thing, of course, you're going to be looking at is the kick. Very important part of every song. And in the 1970s, you had Cerrone, the French-Canadian artist, who made the very prominent kick drum sort of a part of the disco movement. So that's still true today, and especially in what we do with new disco. And what we try and do is we try and create something that sounds live, but it's tight, but it also has some modern elements in there as well. And of course, it's nice to go back to some 80s sounds as well, some of those sort of beautiful synthetic fills or synthetic snares. But let's just have a look at what we've got here. We'll look at the first snare, and this is a sample that we've made ourselves of a kick. But of course, there's plenty of different resources for finding kicks, and we spend a long time looking for the right kick, and we've searched for so many kicks in our time that we have a sort of an arsenal of kicks that we can use that really, really work. But I think it's also a good idea to always be on the search for something new, because it can really change the feel of a song. But let's listen to the first kick. So you can see there's lots of different things happening in there. There's not too much low end in that kick, but there's quite a lot of mid end and high end in there, and there's a bit of a click in there as well, a bit of a hi-hat sound in there, which adds a little bit more rhythm. So that's going to cut through a synth and a bass quite nicely. So the problem is, of course, when you're writing a song and you've got a really cool bass line, then you put it together with the drums, and the kick drum sort of gets lost a little bit, and then you start mixing the kick drum higher, and then the bass gets lost a bit, and then you put the bass up again, and then they're sort of fighting against each other. Tim will be going through this a little bit later in one of the other tutorials, but it's always good to sort of start quite cleanly and find something which doesn't interfere with the low end of the bass. So let's listen to the low kick here. So you can hear there's sort of a snap, which also adds to the high end, but there's a real nice low end in the kick there. And as you can see, we've used a kick 2 instrument there, which has got some really, really great options for finding the perfect kick sound. Now with new disco, you don't want to have a real sort of 808 style kick drum in there, something that's really low end, because it takes up far too much space. Let me show you what I mean. So we'll create a track, and in fact, let's do this easier. in Bitwig. We are going to duplicate this track like that, and let's just solo it. Right, so what are the options available in Kick 2? So if we go, let's listen to analog 808. Okay, this sort of drum. And it's quite stereo, it takes up a lot of space. And if you're making a really sparse sort of song, then yeah, that could fit, but it's not really what we're looking for. So if we put the two kicks together, you can see that those kicks together, the low kick and the kick top, they sort of give a really nice rounded sound. Now, of course, you can find kicks, single kicks, which just have lots of low end and lots of high end as well, but we find that as we add more and more instruments, you can be a lot more versatile if you have different samples that are layered, and you can change the volume, change the dynamics a bit so it fits with the other instruments, because when you're writing a song, especially with new disco and the way that we do it, with different instruments like guitar or piano or a synth or what have you, then as we add more, we want to be able to make everything flow really nicely together. So that's a really, really good method of doing it. And of course, you can use these full loops, which have kick, snare, and hi-hat in them. But again, later on, it makes it more difficult to mix and master. Now let's have a look at the snare here, and you can see we've got some effects plugins at the bottom there. Now Tim's going to go through that a bit later, because we're just really looking at how to get the basic idea of a new disco drum beat a la Televisor. So here we go. Listen to the first snare. So you see it's got that sort of bit of an 80s snare sound, a little bit of an 80s snare sound. It doesn't have that Trevor Horn sort of reverb sound on it. We can, of course, add that later. But if we go to the other snare, let's listen to that snare. Now, again, we're using the Kick 2 plugin, and that snare sounds a little bit, I guess it sounds a little bit weak, but it's got something in there which adds a bit more high end, again, helping to make definition for the snare sound. So let's listen to them together. Great. So you can see that the second snare is adding a lot more of a sort of a warm feel, making that snare compete. And again, later on in the song, we might be adding something which is on the same sort of frequency. So we could mix it and mold it a little bit more so it fits the song. So again, layering the kick and the snare gives you a sort of a versatility which will help you later on when writing the song. So you notice we've got a clap here. Now this is your classic, it's like Kool and the Gang or Chic. It adds that sort of feeling like, yeah, we're in a disco, we're in a room, we're having fun. I don't know. But let's listen to the clap. Now, I just talked about being in a room with people having fun, so we'll do something really simple. We'll put on some reverb. Yeah, makes a nice sort of 80s sound. Now, let's put the snares, let's solo the snares and bring in the clap. Right, so you can see that the clap gives it sort of a presence. It sort of takes the beat away from being something written on a computer, and it sort of brings it more into the realm of being a bit more live. Now, we haven't put the clap on each snare hit. Okay, but this is a little bit of overkill, and it adds a little bit more sort of variation to it. Now, if we listen to the beat we have so far, Yeah, it's sounding quite nice. You know, everything seems to be quite standard so far. Let's listen with the synth on there. Yeah, not too bad, but it's not really sort of swinging yet, and we want to try and make it move a little bit with the synth, have a little bit of life. So again, let's add something like some percussion to it. That's what we'd think normally. Let's see how we can make it swing a bit more. And a nice thing to use, we find, is a nice sort of cowbell sound. Now you can use a proper real cowbell sound or something a bit more taken from a synth. We've got something a little bit in between, but let's unsolo everything and have a look at what we have for the cowbell. Is that everything unsoloed? There we go. Let's have a listen. And what we've done there, on the third cowbell sound, we've just dropped the pitch on it. So it sounds a little bit like, it has a little bit more of a dynamic feeling to it. So if we put it together with the beat, here we go, and the clap, let's see what we've got now. Yeah, my head's starting to bop now, my foot's starting to tap, so that's getting a bit more feeling in there. Let's listen with the synth again, check if it's sort of making it move a bit. Yes, it's starting to work. I'm starting to play air drums, so that is definitely starting to work for me.